One thing we love here on RGT 85 is, of course, Sega. I remember when I first got my Sega Genesis one Christmas, and it was an absolutely amazing experience. Although the NES was my first console, the Sega Genesis was the first console I got brand new. It wasn't a hand-me-down. It was mine. It was all mine, and it was just absolutely fantastic. I have so many great memories of Sega and old Sega consoles. And of course, in 2018 and beyond, we've been seeing a resurge of retro games. You have a lot of plug-and-play systems like the NES Classic, the SNES Classic. Of course, there's companies out there making so many different clone systems for the NES and the Super Nintendo. It's really a great time to be a retro gamer, but Sega stuff has been a lot more harder to come by. You of course have the AT Games products, which aren't really that good when it comes to Sega Genesis stuff. Sega themselves, of course, is working on the Mega Drive Mini, but that's been delayed until 2019. On the clone system side of things, there's really not that many. There's things like the Retron 5 out there. We of course reviewed a Gamers Tech Sega Genesis clone that was pretty basic, but it did okay in terms of playing your games on your HD television, but there really hasn't been a premium system when it comes to the Sega Genesis until now. But you may be familiar with a company called Analogue, who has done the NT and the Super NT, which are premium systems for the NES and the Super Nintendo. We actually took a look at the Analogue NT here on the channel once when a Patreon member actually sent it in to me to check out, and then I had to send it back because these systems are very expensive. Well, today Analogue has announced the Mega SG, and it is a Sega Genesis system that looks to be the ultimate Sega Genesis system. It can do pretty much everything, and it looks and sounds really cool. So what is the Mega SG? What does it bring to the table? What's the price point, and what can it do out of the box and in the future? Sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's jump into the Analogue Mega SG and why it's the ultimate Sega Genesis system for 2019.
Hey, RGT 85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards! One thing about Analogue products is that they are very, very high quality. They usually use like the best materials when it comes to things, and you can definitely see it in the construction of the system itself. But of course, that high quality tends to come with a higher price point. And we've seen things like the NT and the NT Mini, which were, you know, almost $500 depending on which system you got. But they did seem to get the price point down on the Super NT. And it looks like the Mega SG will actually have a more friendly price point like we saw with the Super NT, coming in at $190. Now, this is supposed to be releasing in March 2019. For this video, we'll just say spring though. We'll give them a little bit of leeway just in case. But $190, you know, what are you getting for that $190? So first I want to talk about basically what the system can do, and then what the sort of features are. We'll talk about the tech stuff, and then of course we'll talk about the future of the system. So at $190, you're getting a 1080p Sega Genesis experience right out of the box, and that is really big in my opinion. You know, obviously a lot of these systems, these clone systems only do up to 720p, so if you're an audio or a video file who's just really into crisp picture and getting the best out of your system, this is definitely a big plus in my opinion. Now, the system does not come with any controllers, which is something that we've seen from Analogue do in the past, but it does work with all of your standard Sega Genesis controllers. There is a controller slot, 2 controller slots on the front of the system, so just plug and play your old Sega Genesis controllers. You can get 6-button controllers for dirt cheap. But if you want something a little bit more fancy, they are teaming up with 8BitDo, which makes absolutely phenomenal products, to do some Bluetooth 2.4 gigahertz controllers for the system. These will be available for $24.99, and you know, if you want a wireless solution for this system, I think that's pretty smart, and I think it's worth picking up this thing. Unless you have a bunch of Sega Genesis controllers laying around, it's probably smart to go out of your way to pick this up because it's only $24.99 for a controller. It's going to be high quality. 8BitDo does phenomenal work when it comes to things like that, so I'm totally on board with that. I'll probably just use my Sega Genesis controllers if I end up picking up this system, but I am curious to see how good these controllers are because I'm sure they'll be very good. Now, when it comes to the tech side of things, this is an FPGA system, which means that it is not a simple emulator, but it is actual hardware built from the ground up. Now, this system uses the same Altera Cyclone V chip that was found in the Super NT that's modified for the Sega Genesis. When it comes to the sound of the system, it uses a Yamaha YM2612 chip in the FPGA, which, according to Analogue, makes it sound the best that the Sega Genesis has ever sounded. And, you know, that's pretty cool in my opinion. There's a lot of great Sega Genesis tunes. I am not admittedly a huge tech guy. You guys understand that, so I don't really understand, you know, how impactful that is, but I'm sure that this is a big deal for the system. Obviously, they have released some gameplay that I've been showing of Gunstar Heroes running on the system, and you can just see it looks absolutely phenomenal. Like, obviously, their FPGA chip that they are using for this is definitely in line with what the Sega Genesis should look like in 2019, so it looks absolutely phenomenal. So is the Mega SG just a really beefed up Sega Genesis, or will we be able to play other consoles that were either applicable with the Sega Genesis or maybe just Sega lineage consoles on this system? Now, a lot of this information comes to us from an interview that Christopher Tabor from Analogue did with Polygon, and he said that no, they're actually looking to expand it, and the Master System will actually be able to be played out of the box with the Mega SG via an adapter that comes with it. So that's super cool. Of course, there's things like the Power Base and the Power Base Mini that allow you to play Master System stuff, but I feel like this custom built adapter for the Mega SG will make Master System games just look that much better. They showed some Golden Axe running on the Master System via the Mega SG, and it looks absolutely fantastic. You know, I love my Power Base Mini, but I think that this is going to be something bigger. Now, as far as Sega CD support is concerned, yes, this will actually support the Sega CD, both models 1 and 2 natively. You don't need anything extra, and that, in my opinion, is super awesome because I love the Sega CD as well. There's so many amazing games that only came out on the Sega CD that time has pretty much forgotten, like Terminator. Terminator is such a freaking good game on the Sega CD, but nobody ever talks about it. So Sega CD support is absolutely awesome, and I think that's a really big deal. Now, as far as other systems are concerned, like the 32X, which would be awesome as I have a complete 32X collection, unfortunately, as of right now, it will not support the 32X, but Christopher Tabor did say this in the interview with Polygon. So what we want to do, and no promises on this, very critically, no promises on this, but ideally I would love to do this, is just implement the effing 32X in the FPGA, and then you don't even have to ever use the 32X. You can use one of our simple cartridge adapters, you know. They don't need any hardware or anything, just runs in the Mega SG. So it looks like that is something they are considering, and honestly, that would be awesome because the 32X is such a cool and unique system. It has such a small library. Most of the good games on it are super cheap to pick up, so this would be absolutely awesome because I am a 32X fan and I would love to see that. Now, beyond that, Christopher did speak on other systems. All of those systems, obviously besides Sega CD and Mega CD, they are all implemented and designed totally in FPGA by Kevin, and what we're going to do next year is release these cartridge adapters that allow you to play the rest of Sega's past, like Game Gear, SG-1000, SC-3000, the Mark III, you know, the Japanese equivalent of the Master System, Sega cards, Sega My Cards, and we're going to make them available for $10 each. That is absolutely awesome. Game Gear stuff on there. They showed some Game Gear footage running on the Mega SG, and once again, it just looks absolutely phenomenal. The colors look absolutely amazing. Very crisp, definitely a lot of pop to them. And finally, the main thing that you're probably wondering, does this thing have an SD card slot on it? Can you potentially put ROMs and different firmwares and stuff on it, custom firmware? Yes, it will have an SD card slot on there. So that is another big win in the grand scheme of things because, you know, a lot of people are technical wizards out there and get a lot of interesting things going on with these analog systems. But overall, I really like this thing, and I might have to put in a pre-order for it. Yes, it's definitely very expensive. It's definitely a luxury product. It's definitely not a product for everyone. Most people out there are fine with things like emulators and cheaper systems that just have plug-and-play stuff and stuff like that, and that's totally cool, but there's definitely a market for systems like this. When you see how fast things like the NT and the Super NT have sold out and how many people love these systems, there's definitely a high-end retro gamers collectors market, and when you look at the footage of how these games look and play, when you look at the actual system design itself and the fact that it'll support Sega CD, it'll support Master System, and then the potential with Game Gear in the future, and the possibility of 32X, like this is the ultimate Sega Genesis system, and there are a lot of die-hard Sega fans out there, and Sega collectors as well, that will love a system like this, and I'm pretty sure I'm one of those people as well. So let me know in the comments section down below what you think of the Mega SG. Is this a system that you're going to be interested in? Have you checked out other Analog products? Do you like the Analog products, or are they too expensive for you, because I definitely understand that it's sort of a smaller market, a more niche market, but I think this just looks absolutely awesome. And when I saw it this morning, I was just absolutely thrilled and just really blown away by this, because I think it's going to be something really special. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. As always, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.